Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 37. And today we're actually going to answer a few questions. Kind of a dry period in the game right now. And so we're going to be answering from questions that been getting frequently about gear, about kind of that middle game or pre-5th job part of the game. We're going to talk about Demon Slayers. We're going to talk about how they rank up in the warrior tiers, and if you know if it's viable or makes sense to re-roll to paladin, since they do share the weapon and all the same gear. And then we're going to finish watching, kind of throwing it back to a few um, pieces of content from literally 1 year ago. We were not clearing Lotus back then. V2 just came out. Arc. I'm going to show an Arc speed run. It was kind of the world record back in the day. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I first want to start this video off with this podcast off with just questions that I've been getting. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to comment in the YouTube videos, DM me on Discord, DM me on Game, wherever. I'm always down to talk and have conversations and kind of help people out and give my insight. But the first question that I've been getting quite frequently actually is what to do from that level like 160 to 199, the pre-200, pre-5th job portion of the game. For a lot of people, it's still a grind to get to level 200, and you can't really do any damage or progress or do any end game content without being level 200, without those V matrix, V skills, and things like that. So a lot of people are trying to push to get to 200 ASAP. So I've actually recently just got a Sia to level 200 with that event, that free level up. I got it to 199, then used that potion from the previous event and got it to level 200 instantly. So I feel like I understand the game a little bit in that scenario because I've just done it. It was pretty much last week. And a few of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about leveling at that level and even 200 plus is you have to take advantage of the dailies. So the game really encourages you to do your dailies. So things like, your daily missions, you get 6 of them, right? So pretty much up to level 200, it's going to be guild attendance. It's going to be daily dungeon times 3, elite dungeon times 3, dimension invasion times 1, I think, and then kill 1,000 mobs in Star Force, Arcane Force, whatever it is. And that is, I think it's do Commander is for 6, or sometimes it's clear up Expedition, but I think at the higher levels it's clear Commander. So doing those allows you to get, if you do 2 out of the 6, 4 out of the 6, and 6 out of the 6, you get EXP, right? Depending on how many you do. And so one of the things that I'm doing for my Legion and for my level 200 Sia was I was doing all of those for Sia. 6 out of 6. It's a ton of EXP. I think it's probably, if I want to remember correctly, it's about 7% each every 2 daily missions. Maybe not a level closer to level 200, but I know definitely around 160, 170, 180. You get about 7%. So that's 20% just from doing your dailies. So every 5 days, you're going to level if you just do that. And then from 170, I think, or 160, whenever edge of space is available to you, do your 1 hour. It's the best bang for your buck, EXP wise. If you have EXP coupons, I highly recommend you using it for that over auto battle. And the nice thing about my Sia was that it was completely free to play. So I just use hot time. If you only have a certain amount of AB, definitely use hot time. If you save it for the weekends as well, for the extra party XP. And you want to maximize that. Obviously, stack EXP coupons, do your dailies for Mulong, for your pendant. You want to get both if possible. You want to do legends for the legends medal. You want to make sure you have EXP jewels, EXP coupons if you can. Just be able to stack as much EXP as possible. And really focusing on quantity or quality of your maximizing your auto battle. quality of where you're training versus quantity, right? Especially as a free to play, you don't have endless, you can't just buy auto battle and things like that. So you really want to focus on maximizing what you have available to you using EXP coupons and EXP armors, accessories, things like that. So that's one of the things that I focused on. Edge of Space, doing the dailies, and mini dungeon is another one. You can just set it for the daily hunt. That's a good amount of EXP as well. And I think the most underrated is, I've talked about before, is the daily quest. So from level 140 all the way up to level 200, even level 200 plus, you're going to have daily quests that you can auto battle and you'll get EXP at the end. It's usually collect X amount of drops, miscellaneous stuff, or just kill X amount of mobs. And it's very quick. It's very easy. You can just do auto battle, set it and forget it. And that gives a lot of EXP as well. I think it's about, again, 5, maybe less at close to 200, but it's definitely quite a bit. 10% combined with doing 2, you get 2 per day. And then after a certain point as well, if you have nothing else to do, you don't have auto battle, definitely look into the quests that are available to you for your level. So especially if you're level 190 plus, those give a ton of EXP and are worth it all the way up to every level from 190 to 199, 200, you're going to get a quest to do. It adds up. And then things like Kerning Tower is a great source of EXP. And Dimensions Evasion is good as well. But really, it's just about doing your content, doing your dailies, and you can get a good chunk, 20, 30% a day. And that adds up very quickly, even more if you're, maximizing auto battle and things like that. So it's much faster than it used to be, but it's still a grind, right? I actually only auto battled at 168. So I wasn't even at the highest Star Force areas. I wasn't at, I didn't have the strongest gear. It was mainly about surviving. And so 168 was the prime spot for me. CEOs were very good about training, things like that, and make sure I'd max out on pots, potions. And the worst thing to do is set your auto battle and then die randomly, right? And then miss out on a good party as well. So I made sure, I wasn't at the best maps, but 168 was good enough, and it actually gave quite a bit of EXP for the level. So that's my recommendations. I highly recommend at least getting to Star Force, probably 168 is good enough. 144 is slow. 158 just doesn't have a great, when our server doesn't have a lot of, parties at that map. And 168 is arguably kind of the sweet spot for survivability, for minimizing funding and still getting good EXP. But definitely dailies are most important, and getting those quests out of the way on a daily is the best bang for your buck by far. But thank you for that question. I got a few of them. So hopefully it answers you guys' questions. If you have any more follow-ups, definitely reach out to me and I'll gladly expand. And the next question is sort of class related. I think a lot of people get frustrated. I got a Demon Slayer reach out to me, was just asking about tips about how to play the class, how to improve DPS. Should he re-roll to Paladin? He was frustrated, right? As a Demon Slayer, DKs with less cap, less stats, heroes with less stats, less cap. Now, obviously, Paladins are out DPSing him in Lotus, in Arc, in Covert, and things like that. And so he was just asking for some advice, right? Some things he can improve on. Should he re-roll? And I get it, right? It's frustrating when you see that you're getting out deep, you're investing into the game, and it's just not translating. It's been happening since day one. It's never going to change. And I initially kind of told him first, what was his stats like, his gear. I think people just look at physical attack, percent stats, and cap, and that's the end all be all. But there's some little nuances here and there that make a difference. For example, he didn't have the Dominator pendant from Arc, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that ignore enemy defense in the pendant, 2%, 1%, 1.5%, it adds up. I'm telling you, it's sneaky, adds up. That's free cap. And especially in Covert, you'll notice that once you get that pendant, your Covert score is going to jump up by 1,000 points easily, because your V skills are doing ones. They don't have any ignore enemy defense besides with defense smash 4 or special nodes. So they're going to be doing ones if you don't time it correctly. So any sort of passive damage that you're getting with the Dominator pendant, it's going to do something continuously. So it definitely makes a difference. But I think the next thing is sort of, after you look at gear is pretty similar. There's not much that's going to make a huge difference other than cap. The next thing I look at is usually battle analysis. I asked him, show me what he showed me the minute to minute, records, best records, PRs, but I want to take a step further into battle analysis. And I think that's what usually I do. And I like to see where most of his damage is coming from. And most importantly, how hard his lines are hitting. Right? I think the thing with Demon Slayer is that he learned was that his max lines were capping, right? So that's usually the cap, and his minimum lines were significantly less. So he was capping around 13 mil in Lotus and Arc because of ignoring enemy defense, but his minimum lines were hitting around 3 mil. And this is sort of, again, this is with no defense smash 4, with no defense smash 4 up, and the reduced cap already. So take it with a grain of salt. But that difference is what is ultimately the difference between a Demon Slayer and a hero and a DK, right? Demon Slayers have blue blood, which is a clone line, essentially, right? At 55% of that main skill. So again, that's what that small number is coming from. But that just shows that from 13 mil to 3 mil, each of his lines are not equal. So even if you think that you Demon Slayers may have more lines than DKs, or better burst, can do more damage, it ultimately comes down to how hard those lines are hitting. DKs and heroes cap easily. They have no clones. So their minimum and maximums are going to be pretty even. Maybe, obviously a few mil difference because of the special nodes, like I mentioned, but not 10 mil difference, right? And if the lines are equal, and if the stats are kind of close here and there, the difference is that minimum lines, right? So like it's 13 mil to 3 mil lines. That's 4 lines to 1, 4 times. So that's just something that I think people, especially like for example, classes like Demon Slayers or a lot of other classes that feel like their class is underachieving. Sometimes it's the way the class is designed, right? It takes a lot of funding for a Demon Slayer. It's not just cap. It's physical attack. It's percent stats. And you have to do even more. I remember as a Demon Slayer, when I was maining Demon Slayer, I remember I had so much room to grow with those blue bloodlines that I'd look on YouTube and I'd see Rubido, the best Demon Slayer in the game. He would be doing something with his rotation that just isn't applicable to every other Demon Slayer because of how great his stats were and how it allowed him to cap all of those clone lines, those blue blood lines, to do things differently than another player, right? With lesser gear, which is everyone else. So I think the moral of the story is, right, each class has its own built-in mechanic, and you have to look a little bit deeper underneath the surface of not just how much damage you're doing, per minute. You have to look at the battle analysis and then compare it to your fog training. Maybe your rotation is messed up. Maybe you could get a little bit more hits in, attacks in here and there. Maybe you're missing out on DPS that way. Or maybe it's just the way the class is designed. And ultimately, the final question is obviously, is Demon Slayer just that bad? The answer is no. I think Demon Slayers are really good. It just requires a lot of funding. DKs and heroes can cap easier with less funding. So should you reroll to Paladin is the next question. Usually I'd say depends on if you like the Paladin class. Or do you just, you're just frustrated with the Demon Slayer class? Do you like the Demon Slayer class? Do you like the class that you like playing the class that you're re-rolling from? Do you even like the class that you're going to re-roll to, or you just focus on damage? Because rebalances change and occur frequently. right? Paladin, for example, hasn't gotten a rebalance since Explorer Remaster all year. That was December of 2022. While Demon Slayers have had 2, possibly 3. So it's possible that Paladins just stay the same, right? They're just that great while other classes catch up. So would you rather be that Paladin that is, not going to really see any changes in rebalances and still be very, very good? Or would you rather be that Demon Slayer player that's like stuck it out, got rebalanced, and then you can see your DPS go up because through the rebalance, right? And that gets you excited, right? I think a lot of people may take the latter, right? I can see why you would take the latter. You kind of just like to get excited for new PRs, new tests, get you excited to play your class again, that you actually enjoy playing. And then, the damage actually translates with the rebalance. So again, I think Paladin's a great class. I rerolled from Demon Slayer to Paladin before Paladin was even great. Paladin was a support class when I rerolled. Contrary to popular belief, I did not reroll because Paladins were OP and topping the charts. They were not. I rerolled to Paladin because we had enough DPS that went from my Demon Slayer. We needed a Paladin because back then we needed Threaten. We needed the support. We needed the res. We needed the stun for Arc and for Lotus and things like that. And we just didn't have any. And we were just so handicapped by crit res back in the day. And it's way more fun to do content than have to, sit on the side. Because I was playing my alt Paladin anyways, which is much less geared than my Demon Slayer because we needed that class so much more. It had nothing to do with DPS. I was right in front of the Bishop, rank 9, still playing, loving the class, enjoying it. So everyone's situation is different. I always recommend don't reroll because of the damage. Reroll because you enjoy the class. Reroll because you want to play that class, you enjoy it. Sometimes it's fun to do more damage, but damage comes and goes, in my opinion. It's always what keeps you around is just loving the class, loving the gameplay, loving whatever toolkit that class has available to it, and maximizing it to maximize your DPS and just maximize its potential. So I know a lot of people kind of contemplate, debate, are frustrated with their classes. I would wait, see what September patch holds if a rebalance does come, because that can just remotivate you, right? And nothing's going to be worse than seeing your class, you reroll and then seeing your class that you rerolled from get a rebalance. So keep that in mind. I hope that helps you guys kind of think through what sort of process, if you're frustrated with your damage and you think about rerolling, it could be the class, could be the mechanics of the class, it could be gameplay, it could be things you could improve mechanically as well. So a lot of factors there. It's not just cut and dry. Not everyone's situation is the same. But again, keep the questions coming. Those are just a few that I've gotten. After this break, we will come back and we're gonna look at some content that I posted a year ago, see what the game was like back then, and I'm pretty sure none of my videos have changed. Probably looks exactly the same with the voiceovers and the screen records, things like that. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back. And this was, I'll show this video first. This was 11 months ago, 12 months ago, 9/4/22. And I'm recording this on 9/5, September 5th, 2023. So we're going to look at this and see what the world record arc run with 5 class-specific world records was like 1 year ago. And reminder, this was, well, you'll see the gameplay. This is pre-Explorer Remaster, just after V2, and the game was a lot different.
Hey guys, back with another
And
Maple
so
Story video
let's
here. This time,
not listen to that. And put the little highlights. With the little preview. So this was, oh yeah, you see that little strategy back in the day? This was pre being able to select DPS for Echo. So me and I guess this was trash. The number one DB went to the far right corner. out of range from everyone else, so that he was basically the only option to get Echo. This is a little strategy that we did to, get him to get the Echo buff. And so that was a little sneak peek back in the day. And then the gameplay really was all about no threaten right here. All those crits, non-crits. We had a Wild Hunter. We had a Shade, which I think had crit res. Bishops didn't have back then. But split up, you can see right here. Crit, even the split clone right there. So a lot of RNG back in the day. 1 year ago, hitting that first Thran was huge. And then look, Thran's up pretty much this entire first minute. Magic Crash right there. And there's another split. Screen cracks come in. These were fast screen cracks. And it's no surprise that this is, a year ago, it was pretty fast. This was a great run. Those are coming in hot. And there's my first time no threat failed. So look at those non-crits. That's huge. And really what the game was all about back then, I swear, you could never hit a PR unless you hit that first Thran, and you kept hitting Thrans, especially as a paladin. Your DPS really suffered when you didn't have Echo up. So if you didn't get Thrans in those first minute and things like that, when hammers are up and Echo, you just did your damage just significantly dropped. And this was the case for a lot of classes. So nice right there. Thran hit the split clone, and we downed it. 2 minutes. You want to guess who was number one? Where I fell? We had 2 bishops. We had Trash. I think we had 2 Shades. True Display. Some of the best players in the game. Wilson and Probolic was in this too. And Trash, he got Echo, so his damage was insane. I was 5th. Huge. Those top 2 were a tier above everyone else with their pony hair. And then Knuckle still was able to pull it out. And look at that. 3 through 6 through 7 through 8, I'm pretty sure, was all, 3 through 8 was all within 5 mil damage, 5 bill damage, sorry. And that really came down to who got portaled and who didn't. If we ran this back about 100 times, that probably we would never get this combination again. It would probably be rearranged in completely different order. So crazy to see just how close it was at that time, and the gameplay. And this was all before Echo even got buffed. I'm pretty sure, or maybe it was, but yeah, that was pre-remaster, Explorer remaster, and all these things. 50 bill hype was hyped. That was the perfect time. Some things never change. Oh, we were pre-buffing too as well, and before this run with class buffs, but pretty insane. A year ago, Pally charts don't change. Burst in the first minute, drops off significantly in the second minute, things like that. But that was pretty cool to see and look back on. And then that was still the end game boss, because Lotus, as you can see in the title, Lotus attempt number 3. We're getting there. We were getting there. And kind of how I tracked, our progress with Damien, we did the same thing in Lotus back in the day.
Back with another MapleStorian video here. This
voiceovers again. And we had multiple runs, I think, in this video, and it just was not, we just couldn't get through it. So this was a combination with Emperor and Shelter. I wish I could see who's on this team, but Bomatsu's in there. Strategy, still sound. Start on the right side. Hope, pray for Thran RNG. Benediction at the start. Burst it down. Bombs came through. So 100% crits there. I wonder what cap was back then. It must have been 15 mil or 14 mil, 15 mil. There wasn't a big difference between like level 50 Necros players and level 40. Yeah, this is all definitely before the Necro changes and all those things in Absolab. So cap was, I think everyone's cap was pretty similar. So it really was about lines and threat and RNG. Basically what it came down to. There was so much RNG coming into play that it just was not the biz. And back then, still, you can see bombs were a huge issue. We ran, yeah, we just didn't have enough damage. Bombs are a huge issue. And during kind of this phase in between benedictions and things like that, we just had such a hard time keeping them off us, getting stunned. I remember our bishop was, dispelling. We were calling for dispels, things like that. Some things that we did, still to this day, or when we first started clearing Lotus on second characters, alts, and newer teams. But we were at this time we were ahead of the curve when it came to Lotus. We were dead again right there. Tried to kill them. Just making mistakes that we made. Bombs are such a big deal. We would try to attack them, and it just we just couldn't kill it fast enough. And you can see once one person is down, once multiple people are down, it just snowballs, and we just have such a hard time, clearing bombs. Basically, you can see one of the strategies what we had: people with Synchro, me, Paladins, Phantoms, stand on that middle platform to clear bombs and get them before they get the team. But you can see our DPS is just so far behind. I remember at the time, I think they made a nerf before this. This was before they kind of shadow nerfed phase 1. But one of the things that we ended up finding out later on with Fog Machine was that Lotus phase 1 is actually level 1 boss. It's like guild dummy, or it's like guild content, guild dungeon. So we just did so much more damage. And back then at this time, Lotus was phase 1 was just so tanky. And our damage wasn't as high, obviously. So like here, relying on crit, res, hit Thran right there. But all of our lines are just not hitting as hard, right? So you can see kind of the first 30 seconds, we're not even close to clearing it. And these are all the best DPSs in the game. We had Trash in here, we had Bomatsu, we had great players overall, Phantoms, multiple Phantoms, multiple 2 bishops. And so it was tough. I remember team comp was such a huge factor. We tried to stagger benedictions. We tried to, have one of them, call out dispels and things like that. And we didn't even have Parabolic in here. So we just could not handle bombs consistently. And so we really struggled. It's funny how Lotus was all about clearing phase 1, and after that it was a DPS race and just surviving. Damien's the complete opposite. Where phase 1 is supposed to be a breeze, and then the end of phase 2 for Damien is where the real challenge begins and the hardest part. So, it's just cool to see we have Benediction up again here to handle bombs. I remember we were calling it out manually. Since we did have 2, we tried to have it up as much as possible. But we just could not do enough DPS. Like 2 minutes in, we're at 50% with all of our burst. It just was not happening. And it's crazy. At the time, we ended up clearing after the September patch. So it wasn't just the rebalance. It was that combination of what they shadow nerfed Lotus as well, which is what we're sort of almost anticipating with Damien, but they haven't done it yet. And it seems like they may not. And they want us to struggle, which is totally fine because, again, Damien is for the weapon. So I'm all about kind of chilling and trying to make it work. But it's eye-opening to see what the game was like a year ago. The game is the same. It's the same boss that we're clearing, but 3 minutes in and we're at 50%, 40%, and it's just brutal. But the crazy part is at the time we felt like we were so far away. And then within a month, within less than a month, we were clearing this. We were obviously doing double the damage, whatever it was, rebalance or some changes to the boss, and we ended up clearing this. So just kind of gives me perspective. I like to look back on these things because it sort of humbles me and makes me kind of like want to keep going at the progress that we're doing with our current state of the game with Damien, or if you're, if you're trying to do Lotus as well, because with the next patches coming and rebalances coming, you never really, you may not be as far away as you think, right? This looks very, very daunting, right? We're not even close, 50% with phase 1, but we get there, and it happens pretty quickly after this. So it's exciting. I think it gives me hope that we just got to keep grinding it out. All of this progress and all of this practice and failure really paid off when we did eventually clear, and it makes it so much more rewarding doing it with the people that we did it with back then. With Damien now makes me excited, and kind of the fun part, right? Conquering something that seems so far away, like, just weeks before, days before. So I love looking back on these things. I hope that's kind of why I made these videos in the first place. I remember making hard magnets videos into Lotus and Arc and things like that, just wanting to share our progression, share insight and tips and tricks to help people clear content. But now looking back on it a year, crazy that I was making videos back then a year ago, but also crazy to see how far we've come, the game in general, but also as players, mechanically, gear wise, teamwork, all of the above. And just gets me, makes me want to play another year, right? Kind of what I've been telling people is kind of like, make it to next year, make it to next anniversary. Don't rush, enjoy the game. Don't even have to really make a lot of progression, because the game that you naturally make progression throughout the game, but just try to make it through the next anniversary and the next anniversary. And that's kind of what this is. Just looking back on it makes me kind of stay in my lane. Like, but there wasn't really much to talk about other than that. So I wanted to kind of share you guys and think about these things with the game. And other than that, thank you for all the questions I get. I really appreciate it. I'm almost there to 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate all the support. I'm definitely going to be posting more content. A lot of people have been wanting me to go back to stuff like this that I just showed you from Lotus and Arc, my progressions, things like that with voiceovers. So I'm definitely going to do more of that. But I still love doing this podcast stuff. Try to get more guests on as there's more better updates, more things to talk about, get discussions going. But thank you again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. I appreciate all of it. I appreciate you guys. Have a lot of fun doing this, and can't wait to see maybe if they give out a new teaser for September update, if that's going to come middle of September. If anyone clears Damien, I think there's a team that's really close. I don't want to spoil it, but it's not us, but a team in Asia that's been grinding. It may come real soon. It may change the game for everybody. If Damien is clearing bowl without even a rebalance, change the game for everybody. It's exciting. They're going to be so far ahead if they clear. I hope they do it. I hope they record it, post it. Can't wait to see it. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.